A lot of you can't seem to keep track of the pets that I do and don't have, so in today's video, I'm going to talk about every single animal that I own and the story of how I got them. Just to preface this video, my parents absolutely do not like animals. We would not have any of the pets we do now if it weren't for me. Oh my goodness, it's not even your turn. We would not have any of the pets we do now if it weren't for me, so a lot of these guys have really cool backstories because it took a lot of convincing to get them. So my very first pet was actually a toy poodle named Bear. He was a little black poodle and he lived till about 15 or 16 years old. He just recently passed away a couple years ago. I don't really want to talk about it because it makes me sad. But the oldest pet that I have is Coco. Coco's actually turning 6 years old and I got him for my 14th birthday. I've actually been asking for a second dog for as long as I can remember. I think a lot of kids relate to this, where you have a family dog and then the family dog gets a little bit old, or maybe they weren't ever that close to you in the first place and you kind of want your own dog. So that's definitely the boat that I was in. I loved Bear. He was absolutely the perfect dog, but he just wasn't my dog. I wanted a baby to be my baby, so I was asking my parents for a second dog for the longest time and they really weren't convinced. When I was 13, I started really hammering down and I was dropping hints every single day. And from when I turned 13, I kept telling them that for my 14th birthday, I was gonna have a dog. And I would force my mom to sign contracts like every time that I could. So like every time that she was in a good mood or I did something that she really wanted me to do, I would literally make up a contract that said that on the day of my birthday, we were gonna go to the Humane Society and get a dog. My birthday's in June. So a little bit of May and kind of near the end of school, me and my dad went to the Humane Society once. I think we actually might have gone twice. And I was really convinced that I wanted a big dog. I really love German Shepherds, but I knew that I wanted to adopt a dog, so I wasn't too particular on breed, but I was sure that I was gonna get a big dog. I've seen a lot of the different dog training videos, and I did not want a little Chihuahua. We already had a small dog, so I was looking at all the big dogs. They were really cool, but my family is just not dog people, and no one in our friend group really had experience with big dogs, so my parents weren't really on board. Oh, and they kept talking about the size of the poop. They were like, if that thing poops inside, it's gonna ruin the entire house. I don't know how big they think dog poop is, but they did not want a big dog. I remember we didn't actually end up going to the Humane Society on my birthday, which I'm pretty sure I threw a huge fit about, knowing me. But we ended up going a couple of days after, and we went to the Humane Society. It was a Friday, and I was so excited. We were looking at the big dogs, but nothing was really panning out. At our Humane Society, the dogs come in and go really fast, so it's not like you're looking at the same dog for weeks on end. The dogs I'd seen the last time I went had already been adopted out, so it was all new dogs. I wasn't super connected to any of them, so we were pretty much getting ready to leave. The evening was closing up, but then my sister suggested that we just look at the small dogs because she was kind of off doing her own thing and she'd fallen in love with the little guys, so she tried to convince us all to look at them. I kind of threw a fit about it and I was like, we can look at them, but we are not buying a small dog. And then we saw him and I was like, we have to get him. We actually tried calling to him from the cage where all the dogs were because the small dogs weren't individually kenneled. They were kind of in a group. And he was in the back all by himself, curled up. And we couldn't even tell which was him through the ID tags because the pictures were so bad quality and there were so many dogs in there. So we didn't even know how old he was or anything like that. But I really knew that I wanted him. My dad actually went in the pen and he was able to get Coco out. And his actual name was Jack when we first got him. He was just 7 months old. I think he was one of the youngest dogs in there. And he doesn't do too well with other dogs, which is why I assumed he was also throwing a fit and sitting in the back of the kennel and not wanting to come out. But he was really sweet. He was really laid back and I really liked that. I feel like animals always find their way into your life whether or not you're looking for them. We went to get him on a Friday and like I said, by the time we were looking at the small dogs, the adoptions were pretty much closing up for the night because it was really late and my parents weren't ready to adopt him that night. They really said that they wanted me to have a night to think about it. So that night we came home. I remember going in the basement on our family computer and I was watching every single Chihuahua video that I could because I was looking at German Shepherds before. So I was really excited. I prepared a bunch of things and got it ready for him. My sister and my dad actually went Saturday morning to go adopt him. I was really upset because I was sure that he wasn't going to be there and someone else would have adopted him. But my parents kept telling me that if it's meant to be, he's gonna be there. Of course, I was 14 and I was really upset. My sister and my dad went to go get him because the day of, my mom wanted me to do chores. I don't know if you guys relate to this, but whenever I get a new pet, like the week leading up to it, like I have to be on my absolute best behavior, and like anything my mom wants, I am her slave for that week. So that morning, I went and did chores for her while my sister and my dad got Coco. This could be an entire video on his own because he actually wasn't at the Humane Society. He was at an adoption event. Luckily, we were able to get him and bring him home, and he's been a pain in the butt ever since, but we love him. If there's ever a pet that I kind of regretted buying, it would definitely be Coco. I think being 14, I thought I knew what I really wanted, but I think a dog is just a lot more work than most people give them credit for. And I think it's really hard having an animal emotionally depend on you as much as a dog does. Dogs are one of those animals that really makes a huge lifestyle change on the entire family, even if it's just one person who wants it. I think there's a lot of things that come with Chihuahuas that I just wasn't prepared for. Like, most Chihuahuas aren't very good with their potty habits, and that really frustrates my parents, especially my dad. And that was like, I think we still argue about that. Every time I want a new pet, they're like, look at the mess all your pets make. And I'm like, what pets? It's literally just Coco. Coco makes 100% of the mess that my family sees because all the other pets are well behaved. Coco's a pain in the butt, but we love him and we put up with him. And that brings us on to our next pet. Hey, Sachin. The next pet I got was my rabbit, Sachin. Ever since I got my dog, I loved him so much, but I just knew that he wasn't really the right fit for me or my family. And once I found rabbits on YouTube, I actually fell in love with them. Luckily, I started off looking at the right types of rabbit care, and 101 Rabbits and Stormy Rabbits were some of the first YouTube channels that I found. I would binge watch their videos, especially cage tours. Those are my absolute favorite videos to watch, and I would watch videos on repeat over and over again because at that time, there weren't actually that many rabbit videos in the community. So the more I started researching rabbits, I love researching animals. The more I started researching animals, I started slightly dropping hints that I wanted, and as soon as my parents caught on, they were like dead set against it. We already had Coco, and he was a lot of work, and they did not want to bring another animal into this house. Even though technically I had the money to afford him and we had the space, they just weren't convinced. So that year, around Christmas time, I actually had a 3-week break from my school, and I was convinced that I was gonna get a rabbit. Pretty much everyone thought it was a joke, and every time I'd bring it up, everyone would laugh at me, but I was convinced that it was gonna happen. So that year for Christmas, we actually ended up going on a vacation, and I remember being really upset about it because I wanted to get a rabbit and we were going on a vacation for 1 week, so that kind of put a damper into my plans. So my mom kind of was like, okay, we'll talk to your dad, we'll see what he says. So we went on the trip, I would ask her about it, and she'd be like, if you bring it up one more time, you are not getting a rabbit. So I was really hoping I was gonna get a rabbit, but I had no idea. About halfway through the trip, I had everything in the Amazon cart, and I had been like selectifying this Amazon cart for like months. I'd always add stuff in from all the videos that I found and like what people recommended, and I would take stuff out if it got too expensive, and everything was about $120 or $150. So we were about halfway through the trip. My parents were in a really good mood, and I was like, hey Dad, is it all right if I place this Amazon order for a bunny? And he was like, nope, you're not getting a bunny. And I said, well, can I just place the order? Even if I don't get a bunny, it's my money that I wasted. And he was like, yeah, what the heck, just place the order, but you're not getting a rabbit. I actually found Sachin on an ad from a local breeder, and he was everything that I wanted. I mainly got him because I loved his lilac eyes. And I saw him and I just knew that is the rabbit for me. So he was a little baby bunny, he was just 8 weeks old, and I saw his ad. I contacted the breeder. I didn't have my own cell phone because my parents were really strict. So I would actually message the breeder through my mom's phone. My mom knew that I was messaging her, but she didn't like it, so I have to do it whenever she was in a really good mood. I was kind of sporadically messaging the breeder, and she told me that she had a couple people interested in him and she could hold him for me if I did a halfway deposit. Now, my parents are old school and they're like, we are not sending money to some random lady over some app and we're gonna lose all our money. So they didn't want me to send any money. And I was really devastated because I just felt in my heart that this rabbit was the right one for me. So I was literally imagining the types of YouTube videos that I would make with him. So I think my parents knew how much I wanted him. And then my mom said, okay, how about we'll wait until we're back from the trip, and if he's still available, you can go pick him up. And I was so excited. So on the day back from the trip, I didn't want to bring it up and piss her off. And then the next day, surprisingly that evening, I set up the cage because all the Amazon stuff had been ordered and had delivered to our house from the time that we were gone. So all the Amazon things were there, everything had arrived just in time. Even a few things that I thought were gonna arrive later actually ended up arriving the day of, which was really great. And so I set up the little pen in the laundry room because my parents didn't want it in my room. It was a little 4x4 pen. So I remember when we went to get him, I didn't even want to bring a carrier or put water in his water jug because I was so convinced that it wasn't going to happen and something was going to go wrong. So we ended up driving out. My parents really liked the breeder because she was really sweet and really knowledgeable. And we all thought Sachin was absolutely adorable. He was so tiny. And yeah, we brought him home that day. He was in his cage. We were all obsessed with him. My sister and my cousin were with us, and they could not believe that I actually ended up getting a rabbit because the entire vacation, it was like a running joke and no one thought I was gonna get him. And lo and behold, I had my baby bunny. I think literally the very next day or the day after, I made a YouTube video about him because I was so obsessed with him and I really wanted to tell someone, but no one really cared in my real life. So I made a YouTube video about him, and that's how this channel got started. So this is my rabbit, Sachin. He's the star, and he's actually a lot of your guys' favorite pets, which is surprising because I think he's my entire family's least favorite pet. He is honestly the sweetest guy though. He is so loving. He will let you hold him in like the weirdest positions as long as he's being pet. He just wants to be loved. And he's actually had a lot of setups. Let me know if you guys want a video on the evolution of my rabbit setups because he was in a 4x4 pen in our laundry room, and then he moved up to my room and I gradually expanded the cage to what was an 8-foot by 4-foot cage that practically took up my entire room. So he had that for a long time. And then some things happened and he was actually free roamed in my family's living room kitchen area. So the very thing that I absolutely advise against, I actually did for I think at least 6 months. Okay, this is Sachin. The next pet that I got was actually my rabbit, Butchin. A lot of people think that I got my rabbits really close together because I always advise people to keep rabbits in pairs. But one of the reasons I so strongly advocate for having rabbits in bonded pairs is because Sachin was a single rabbit for almost 2.5 years. I got Sachin when I was 15 in December, and I got Butchin when I was 17 in March. I actually had been casually looking into getting a second rabbit. When I first got Sachin, I thought I would have Sachin alone for maybe a couple of months and then I would get a second rabbit because I was absolutely obsessed with rabbits, and for me, having more was the merrier. But a lot of life things happened and I just wasn't able to get a second rabbit then. I decided that I didn't really want any more pets. I was always researching them, but I was just so frustrated of it always causing an argument with my family and everyone like pointing out like the things that I wasn't perfect with about my animal care. It seems like every time I bring up a new pet, it's just an opportunity to criticize every single part of me, and I was tired of dealing with that, so I wasn't asking for any new pets in a while. It was my senior year. I was doing really well at school. I had very few courses in high school. I think I only had 2 classes in the morning, and one of them I was technically like a TA for, but it was really relaxed. And I was taking 3 colleges. I was taking 3 classes at my college, but they were mostly math classes, and I was pretty good at math, so I didn't find it too difficult. So I was doing really well in school. I had a lot of free time, so I started just looking what it would be like to get a second rabbit. I always loved the idea of having social animals in pairs, and this was about the time that a lot of YouTubers were kind of pushing for it more. I always heard more people in the UK and Europe talking about having rabbits in pairs, but in the US, it seemed like having single rabbits was so normal, and I think it was Victoria Rachel I saw first, who was kind of saying that rabbits should start being in pairs, and obviously it made a lot of sense to me. He's just flopped out. I started looking. I was really scared to go through the bonding process because I just didn't feel experienced in that way. I had Sachin for a long time, so in a way I felt really prepared, but on the other end, I just hadn't ever witnessed any rabbit-to-rabbit interaction because none of my friends ever had rabbits. I'd never even seen another rabbit in real life besides the 2 that I have. Okay, I think I've seen other rabbits when I was getting Butchin, but when I was getting Sachin, he was the last rabbit left in his litter, and I just saw his parents. I hadn't really seen that many rabbits, and I was really nervous about it. there weren't any knowledgeable rescues in my area, so I decided that I was going to go through a reputable breeder. I really preferred this because I was able to ask a lot of questions and she had the answer, whereas a knowledgeable rescue definitely would, but the rescues in my area were more dog and cat specialized and they just occasionally would take in rabbits. So I decided to go through a breeder and I got him again when he was 8 weeks old as a baby. I knew Sachin's personality pretty well and he was pretty dominant even with my dog, so I just felt like having a baby rabbit would be a little bit easier and the dynamics could be established earlier on and there hopefully would be less fighting and things like that in the bonding process. So I got him when he was 7 weeks and we did the bonding process. It honestly didn't take that long because Sachin had been alone for almost 3 years and he was so desperate to have a rabbit companion. So he took to Butchin really well and Butchin was a baby who didn't get much say in the situation. So the bond worked really well. I was really nervous about it. I filmed a lot of it and I still have it on my phone, but I wasn't really making YouTube videos at this time. I love my rabbits so much and I make a lot of rabbit YouTube content because they're the reasons that I started my channel. I started my channel when I first got Sachin and I was really consistent about making videos for a couple of months and then again some life things happened and I'd stopped making YouTube videos completely, and then when I got Butchin and after I bonded him and Sachin, I decided that I wanted to make a video on top 10 bonding mistakes because a lot of the bonding videos I was seeing, for one, were really outdated because a lot of the most popular rabbit YouTubers who had rabbits in bonded pairs, their bonding videos were quite old and a lot of the things they were saying just aren't true or wouldn't work for other people. And I was part of some rabbit Facebook groups and I saw a lot of people having issues bonding their rabbits and there were so many mistakes that I was seeing being made over and over again. So I decided to make a video on it and that kind of restarted the light for me to start making my content. I think it's kind of funny because the first video I made was a Meet My Bunny video for Sachin and I made some other videos after when I restarted my channel, but the video that kind of really started the light again was I made a Meet My Bunny video for Butchin, and I had so much fun filming it and a lot of fun editing it, and it's really flattering when people are telling you how much they think your rabbit is adorable. So I love those two videos so much. Please go watch them because they don't get much love, but they're like my favorite videos. And it has baby bunnies in it, so I don't know why you guys aren't watching it. Oh, and I think the only reason my parents let me get him is because I had really good grades. What are you doing? I had really good grades that year, and I think I won a couple of awards around that time, so it was kind of like a high moment for me. So my parents were in a really good mood, and they surprisingly didn't take that much convincing. I think the day we actually went and got him, my dad didn't even know, so we kind of sat at the breeder's house for like 20 minutes, and my dad is like, "You are not getting a rabbit," and I was like, "I am getting this rabbit." So we kind of talked for like 20 minutes, and then we ended up getting him. My dad was very horrified to see the rabbits humping each other, and he was like, "I did not want this dirty, nasty behavior in my house." That was pretty funny, but it was a lot of fun. I'm so glad I have you. He is just sweet. He's definitely not an attention hog, but he is really calm. He's the best rabbit to hold. If ever kids want to hold any other rabbit, this is the one they're holding because he's so shy and he's so sweet and timid and he's so cuddly. A lot of people love the really outgoing rabbits like Sachin, and they're so fun, but I think the timid rabbits usually make better pets, especially for kids. They might not have as an outgoing personality, but they are so calm and so cuddly and so fun to play with. You're my baby. Okay, this is Butchin. Let's go talk about the other pets. The next pets are my sugar gliders. I actually have 4 of these guys, but they all kind of have their own story. I do have a Meet My Sugar Gliders video, which goes a lot more in depth, but here's a quick rundown. This is a Spark Notes version. So sugar gliders had always been a dream pet of mine, but I honestly never thought that I'd own them. They always seemed really expensive and really exotic. I also never knew anyone in my real life who had them, so I never thought that I would. I was actually browsing the local ads one day and I saw people rehoming sugar gliders, and actually quite a few. I was so shocked that anyone in my area even had sugar gliders, and it kind of sparked the plug. I actually wanted these guys when I was about 10 years old. I don't know if any of you remember, but there's this little guy who was a doctor and he had a white lab coat, and he would give all these sugar glider facts, which I'm sure were factual at the time, but now are just extremely outdated. And he pretty much talked about how they were the perfect pet. And ever since then, I've always wanted one. So I started researching sugar gliders again. This time I was looking at the correct sources. And even then, it's pretty hard to distinguish what correct sources are for sugar gliders, but I did a pretty good job researching. I actually found Cow and Mocha, which were which is that white glider. Ouch! No! This is why you get fed on a tray. So I actually found Cow and Mocha. I sadly don't have Mocha anymore. Mocha was a standard gray glider. I found them both on my local ads, and it was in May, really close to my graduation. I'd already finished my college semester and got my associate's degree, and I was graduating high school. I think the only reason my mom even let me was because I was valedictorian of my high school. I'm out of food. You ate them all. You ate it all. But I was valedictorian of my high school, so I think my mom was really proud, and she kind of had a soft spot for me about that. So I kind of brought it up to her that I wanted to even get sugar gliders. She was pretty against the idea, but I showed her the ad and I was like, I think these guys would be absolutely perfect for me. And again, she reluctantly agreed. She didn't actually end up telling my dad. So we ended up going to get them on a Saturday morning and just coming back with the sugar gliders. And when we were gone, my sister was trying to tell my dad that we were getting sugar gliders, but he didn't believe them until we came home. And he was like, you guys actually got the sugar gliders? And we were like, yep, here they are. Cow and Mocha were the most perfect first gliders. I thought that there was a bonding process with them, but there honestly wasn't. They were so sweet. I don't think they've ever really crabbed. They were always fine with being held, with being cuddled. Cow was still one of my most friendly gliders, and so was Mocha. Mocha was also really great with the other gliders, whereas Cow was not. Cow was a pretty sassy boy to bond. He's always the hardest one to bond. When I got them, I didn't really have any lineage on them, so I didn't know their genetic background, and I didn't know their exact ages. I also knew that sugar gliders were highly social, and I always dreamed about having a colony, and it made me feel a little bit more okay to have multiple gliders. In case anything happened to any of my gliders, they would still always have a bonded companion. So I was kind of casually on the lookout, but I was pretty picky about what I wanted, so it's not like I was actively looking. I got Cow and Mocha in May, and then in October, right before my fall break, I actually stumbled upon an ad for Latte. How I was able to convince my mom for him, because she was not excited, is I told her that I really loved the cage and the accessories that it came with, and if I was going to get all that stuff new, it would have cost about the same amount. So I was like, I'm getting all this stuff, and I'm getting a free sugar glider with it. So she wasn't really that convinced, but I ended up going through with it. He actually came from Wyoming. A lady drove him down to me, which was really cool. So a lot of things played into place for me to get him. I got him the day that my fall break started, which was super cool because I had an entire week to bond with him. I ended up bonding him to Cow and Mocha, and the three of them were together for a really long time, and they did really well. I don't really talk about this story because it's really emotional for me, but Latte actually came with a brother who was actually named Pig. Pig was a Cremino glider, and I thought I was getting them from a really good breeder because these guys were lineaged ex-breeders, but I wasn't, and he came to me extremely sick. It was just a lot of money and time invested into him to try to get him to get better, and sadly he passed away. So I lost Pig, which was really emotional for me. But I actually, even though I lost Pig, I kind of say that I never really lost him because I got Piglet. I was actually able to get in touch with the original person who bred Pig. I think Piglet deserves a whole story video on his own because he is the most special glider. But the original person who bred Pig, she was trying to help me some of the issues that I was having with him, which were obviously not related to her fault at all. It was the second home who had given him such terrible care, and that's why he was in the condition that he was in. Even Latte wasn't in great condition. When I first got him, his tail was so skinny and his fur was not good quality. She was helping me a lot with Pig, and Pig actually passed away in December. And after he passed away, she reached out to me and she said that she really wanted to gift me a glider. She was obviously a breeder and she was kind of getting out of the hobby. And she told me that she had this little piebald mosaic glider. That's you, Piglet. She told me that she had Piglet, and he wasn't even named at this time, and she said, I really think that this boy deserves to be with you, and I really want to get him to you. She wasn't in my state, she was in a nearby state, and I didn't think that would work out. I didn't think that my parents would even allow me to get another sugar glider, but she was really persistent about me getting him. I told her so many times to just sell Piglet because we actually tried to get him in December, and there was such bad snow that we weren't able to drive. And I told her that it's not fair to you to keep this boy around when you have gliders needing homes. You need the money, so you can sell him. You don't have to hold him for me. But she was really insistent on it. it ended up working out really weird because it's a really small local town and I've never even heard of it before. But my sister actually had a science fair competition to that town, that exact town where he was located in. So that entire week, my parents and my sister were going there. And it was in March, so they actually ended up picking Piglet. So at this point, I'd lost Pig, but I still had Mocha, Cow, and Latte. The three of them were together in a bonded colony. And when I was first going to add Piglet, he was still a really little Joey, and I thought that he would blend right in, so I wasn't too worried about it. But the longer it was taking for us to get him, since like I said, it was planned for us to get him in December, but it ended up taking till March to get him. He was going to be a little bit older, and the breeder told me that he was so bonded to people, which sometimes means that they don't do the best bonded with other gliders, which is kind of true. He's kind of a sass bucket. Same thing with Cow. I always feel the gliders that are the best people gliders are the worst gliders. I kind of knew that he was going to be a bit more of a challenge to bond. She recommended that I maybe take a female to go home with him because he loved all the ladies, but he was not very good with any of the male gliders she tried him with. So I was looking at different females that I could get, but I was a little bit nervous about adding one female and having the male to female ratio be so off, especially if the female would go into heat. So I wasn't too sold on getting a female, and I ended up picking Camel because my glider who passed Pig was also a Camino glider, and I just thought Camel was beautiful, so I ended up getting him. Surprisingly, Camel actually bonded into the colony of three really well. So it was Camel, Mocha, Cow, and Latte together, and they were super tight. I think Latte and Camel are like best of friends. Latte definitely takes Camel under his wings, and Piglet took a little bit longer to bond, but we got there eventually. When I first initially bonded all five of them, the four of them were really tight, and Piglet was always off by himself because he was so sassy. Whenever I bond gliders, I always used to put them with Mocha because Mocha's the most relaxed glider and he puts up with everything. And Piglet attacked Mocha. That's how sassy Piglet was. And Mocha is the sweetest glider ever. So it took a while for me to bond Piglet, but we got there eventually. I had a colony of 5 for about 2 months, and then sadly Mocha ended up getting really sick and passing away. I really need to make a video on this because a lot of you knew Mocha, so in a way I feel obligated to because a lot of you knew and loved him, but at the same time it's just really emotional for me, and to go through all the footage and relive it. Some people find it calming, but I don't, because the way he passed, I wouldn't say that it was peaceful. The one thing that I'm grateful for is both the sugar gliders that I've lost. They've held on long enough for me to find them, and I was able to pet them and I was able to give them love until the very last second that they passed, which is really special because it doesn't always work out that way. So I'm so grateful that Pig and Mocha held on long enough for me to find them, and I'm so glad that I knew that it was their last moment so I could tell them that it was okay for them to stop fighting and they didn't have to keep trying, because I think sometimes it's good to fight, but then it's also really powerful to know when to let go, and it was both of their times to let go. They both had vet treatment, they both were on medication, we were doing everything we can to get them get better. But when it comes to exotic animals, especially with unknown histories or ones that had pretty much been neglected the way that Pig had, sometimes there's just no coming back from it. And again, vet's knowledge of exotic pets is pretty lacking. It's not like dogs and cats where we know all the different surgeries and we know about all the different cancers. With gliders, it's a lot more abstract. So it was really hard to lose them, but I'm so glad that I was able to have them for the time that I did. He is the most special glider. He knows when I need a little bit of extra love, and he'll literally just sit and watch me instead of going back to bed if he just knows that Mama's not feeling the best. Okay, maybe just a little bit more footage because he is absolutely adorable. I have 2 white gliders, and surprisingly, he's a lot more yellow than Cow, which is weird because he's a lot better bred. But Cow is just so white, and you kind of have that yellow tinge to you. I don't really know why. My next and most recent pet is a Crested Gecko named Geico. I'm actually terrible with naming my animals. The only pets that I named Cow and Mocha, and then I named Piglet. Pretty much every other pet my sister has named or someone in my family. I knew that he was going to get massive and be a really expensive, really cool looking gecko, and I wanted to name him something super majestic and something really fitting, but everyone just started calling him Geico, so before the chance I even had to really name him, his name was set. So his name is Geico, which is pretty stupid, but I love it. I actually was really looking into getting a Crested Gecko, and I was pretty set on one, but I have this like uniqueness complex, and I feel like I don't want something if it's common. And my sister always laughs at me whenever I say that, because she's like, how common is it to even have a pet reptile, let alone a Crested Gecko? I decided to one-up everyone and get a lychee. To be honest, I just thought they're absolutely adorable. I really like the fact that they showed some territorial aggression. I was fine either way if I was either going to get a kind of mean bigger gecko or if I was going to get a super placid one. It seems like we're going to have a really nice gecko because he is so sweet. He has never once even tried biting or made any chirping noises. So he's a really mellow guy, which is also awesome. Again, I feel like the right pet's always come into your lifetime without you even planning for it. His biggest flaw is that he pooped on my sister quite a lot, so she's not very happy with him. But he literally saves his poop to poop on me, and then he goes as an enclosure and he doesn't poop. When I told my parents I wanted a reptile, they tried everything to convince me out of it. I obviously won the battle because here he is. He's actually my most expensive pet, which is pretty surprising because he's just a gecko. But if you guys know anything about Leachianus, they're pretty difficult to breed. There's not that many in captivity, and they take a really long time to get to maturity. So even a lot of the ones that are there, they're not in breeding pairs, and they're really hard to pair. Like, they're pretty monogamous in the wild, so you can get to raise them up for like 3 years and it'll be a complete fluke on them deciding that they don't like each other. But he was my most expensive pet. He was also a rehome. I'm actually trying to stop buying so many animals, as in like from breeders. I really like the idea of rehome. I feel like it's a really good medium for me because I can still get animals with good genetic backgrounds where I know their genetic backgrounds and I can ask questions about their past care and husbandry, because I'm not in a place where I can take in rescues with completely unknown histories and have the time and money to dedicate to them that they need. I'm just not in that place right now. I hope to be in the future, but I think rehome is a really good middle ground for me. I want to do more dedicated videos on him because I think in regards to pet reptiles for small animal keepers like me who prefer the small and furry, I think they're one of the best introductory reptiles, the new Caledonia geckos. A lot of people don't know that they have really severe color changes. I don't know if you guys could tell at the beginning, he was a pretty dark army green, and now he's a really light pale green with all these blacks on him. And he also goes completely pale light green, which is also really cool. I told you he's gonna poop. Whenever he lifts up his tail like that, it means there's a big poop coming. I'm obsessed with catching his boobs on camera. Is that gross? I'm sorry if you guys, I should put a poop warning. He's lifting his foot like the way a dog does. Oh, get it out, buddy. Get it all out. Oh, that's a big poop. That's kind of a really big poop. I always really was fascinated with reptiles, but I never saw myself owning one. The lighting and heating always kind of freaked me out a little bit. I didn't love feeding the insects or any frozen thawed rodents. So I didn't really think they'd be for me. I always thought they'd be a pet that I'd admire from afar. And then when I found out about Crested Geckos, they were kind of everything that I wanted. And then to see that that translated to pretty much all New Caledonia geckos was really cool. I spent a lot of time researching, and I really enjoy researching reptiles, especially their husbandry and the different enclosures that you can make for him. I'm actually going to be making a giant bioactive setup for him. He's in an 18 by 18 by 24 currently, and he's about 50 grams, which I'd say is okay. I'd really like to upgrade him though, which I'll be doing in the future. So I'm really excited for that. Quarantine really made me reevaluate my priorities, and ever since I've been staying home a lot more and had a lot more time to reflect, it made me realize how much I love animals and how much I enjoy caring for them. So it kind of is what sparked me to want to get a new pet. And I really like having Geico because I can have him in my room, and I have really severe allergies. So I can't have a lot of the other pets in my room. A lot of nights I can't even have Coco sleep with me on the bed because it just makes my allergies so terrible. So I love having a pet that I can always interact with, and it's really great in between my classes because I have all like 15-minute transitions, which is too short to do anything productive, but it also feels like a really long time to just do nothing. So I love having him because it's always fun to hang out. He's always doing something cute, and yeah, he's just been amazing. Somebody's ready for the night. A quick recap: I have 1 dog, I have 2 rabbits, I have 4 sugar gliders, and I have 1 gecko. So that's a total of 8 animals. I always used to laugh whenever people didn't know how many animals they have, but whenever people ask me, I literally have to count because you don't really keep track of it as you're buying them. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to comment down below and let me know what your favorite pet is. For me, it's probably a tie between Coco and Piglet because I'm definitely the most bonded to them. But I think the rabbits have a very special place in my heart, so they're also very special. The other sugar gliders and Geico, I don't care about them. I'm just kidding. Okay, thank you for watching. Bye!